it's Friday. And about a week ago, I had to move. I had to move Higurashi stream here to Friday night on the chance that I wasn't gonna be able to stream tomorrow night. Now, in the last like day or so, the thing that would have prevented me from probably streaming on Saturday night, I think, is not happening. So I should say there's a small chance I might be on stream tomorrow night. I might not be. I might just still take the whole day off tomorrow. But if I am on tomorrow night, it just won't be Higurashi. I'm sticking with what I say. I gotta stick with plans that were already made, you know? So that's why we're doing Higurashi here on a Friday night. We're in chapter 4. A wild conclusion here. To chapter 3 last stream. About a week ago. Was it a week ago? Yeah, I think it was a week ago. Almost a week ago. Let's see. This says, according to Steam, chapter 4 is titled Himatsubushi. 100% sure I'm saying that correctly. I should have set it up, so once I click play, we should be good, but we'll see what happens. There we go. Oh, that familiar first time setup menu. Oh, it's like being wrapped up in a comforting blanket when I see this starting a new chapter. So here we go. We're going this one. Perfect. Bring me in. Please pick a language. I probably made this joke last time this got brought up, but wouldn't it be very funny if I just played without any being able to read exactly what the hell's happening? What if I just did it and then commit to the bit and didn't say a word about it, and I just spent a whole chapter just not knowing anything about what was being said? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be very funny, in my opinion. It would hurt the overall product and maybe my overall enjoyment. But the one thing I am a big fan of is committing to a bit. Video opening might contain minor spoilers. Do I want to enable it anyway? Yeah. Alright, if it does it, remember, I'll keep my eyes closed. You can watch it then as a viewer if you care to. That's what we determined is the best way to go. Oh, it probably doesn't play immediately. I always think it's going to play immediately. Look at that new background for us, chapter 4. I should also say it has since been explained to me. There was a little bit of confusion there on my part, maybe because I was not understanding something. But at the end of 3, it seemed like they were going to jump into the Answers arc with Shion as a protag, seemingly. But then there was a bit about, oh, we're going to sneak in a chapter 4 here. There was some confusion. I think it was cleared up. It had to do with like timing of when things like were originally coming out chapter by chapter kind of thing. So this is not going to be that, assumingly. I think this is probably more likely going to be a chapter focused on something else. Maybe more questions posited. Maybe it is a Rika-focused chapter. Man, what the hell happened to Rika in the last thing? Though, dude, I'm now just saying Rika's name. I was like, it's so mysterious what ended up happening at the end of 3. And then there was Rika. And then Rika, not great. Not great. Some foreboding noise. Himatsubushi. For you, the final mystery. Time-killing chapter. I now entrust you with all the mysteries hidden within Higurashi when they cry. However comical it may be, if you have reached any conjecture, then you have passed. Thanks, game. This final novel is a meager reward for you. No. My meager reward. Conjecture is impossible. You have the right to reject this story. I have the right to reject the story? Rebuke the story. Reject it, everyone. Don't let it into your life. This arc includes choices that were added in the console version. These choices result in dialogue changes and can lead to bad ends. Do I want to see these choices? This arc includes choices that... Oh, man. We're gameplay? In my... a kinetic visual novel? My seemingly previously kinetic visual novel? I mean, fuck. We had to wait till quite some time to have something like that in Umineko, didn't we? I'll never forget that moment. This arc includes choices that were added in the console version. Oh, okay. So bear with me as I try to explain this, as from coming from someone who was only doing research and stuff. I vaguely remember when I was downloading and modding the thing that there was explanation for this, and I vaguely remember that there's like choices. Well, I don't remember this bit. I remember that separate. This is getting into like post game once we finish the. I've talked about mentioned this, but like post when we finish all 8 chapters, there's like console arcs that I believe I've downloaded the mods for that are excluded from the Steam version here that you're able to access. I think, I don't think it's a spoiler to say this, and I don't think it was a spoiler for it to be explained to me like this, but there's like choices I think you have to make, and now it makes sense that there's talking about choices here. There's certain dialogue options you have to pick to then access those console arcs, and if that's the case, obviously we're not going to see those now. We'll see those at a later time. But then this makes it seem as if these choices could be other things. Also, an opportunity for me to select bad things for apparently bad ends, which I will surely get clowned on for then choosing. I hope I'm not like quizzed. Am I going to get quizzed? I don't know if my fragile heart can take like a quiz right now. It's been a long week, you know? So let me read this one time. This arc includes choices that were added in the console version. These choices result in dialogue changes and can lead to bad ends. Do I want to see the choice? I assume it's just asking. You could select like no here, and then you just have no pressure and you won't see the bad endings. But I think that's probably not the route I would want to go. Oh, here we go. 3 choices. It's not a simple yes or no. Skip additional choices. Show only content from PC version. Prompt additional choices from console version. Prompt choices and highlight correct. Oh, that's pretty nice that they allow that third option. So this is no, only do the PC version, bring in the console version, extra stuff, and have the choices. Or no sweat, know what you're picking. And in theory, if you wanted to go like, I want to see everything that could possibly happen, not only does this highlight technically the correct answer, then you're 100% seeing the wrong answer. You know what I mean? So then you could see the right answers, but you would also then see the wrong answers if you wanted to see what happens when you select the wrong answer, if you want that like complete kind of run, which I'm vaguely tempted to pick then for that reason. But then I'm losing the oh no, am I going to pick the right thing? Am I going to pick the wrong thing? This is tough. This is tough. This is a very tough choice. I don't think I want to pick the top one. I think we picked the middle option. I guess what I'll say is if I pick the middle option, and that is the wildly wrong selection to make here, which I'm sure someone will be very kind and let me know in like YouTube comments or something. If I pick the wrong thing here, my understanding, which is very limited, is that the only difference between these would be if you really want the no sweat, like I just want to pick the right things, or you definitely want to see all the bad endings. But I think that takes away from like having to actually pick. So I would assume that I should pick the middle one if I want that mystery. I don't know what kind of choices I'm going to have to make. Do I make choices or am I quizzed? That's what it really comes down to. How obvious are the wrong answers? Well, let me know if I fucked up by picking that one. That's how we'll do it. Who is the criminal, you ask? Don't we search for them in the story? Who is the criminal, you ask? Do you even know what the criminal did? Who's the criminal? Who is the criminal who will kill me now? That's a good question. Or questions. Multiple questions. Midsummer, 1985. Alright, new background here. I had misread the time and ended up arriving too early. The schedule board flipped with a series of clacks. My flight to Sapporo was still a bit later on. I still had over an hour before boarding. Well, I might as well close my eyes for a bit on that bench over there then. I came here directly from work, so maybe the fatigue from that was making me sleepy. Finding a suitable bench, I put my luggage on the seat next to me and settled down. Akasaka? New character alert? Phew. I sighed like an old man. I had hoped to stay young forever, but I'd become splendidly middle-aged. Oh, the same. Although I'm like 63. This is the last stream of May. June being my birthday month. I'll be turning 72. So get your well wishes and happy birthdays prepared. Fucking 72-year-old man streaming Higurashi. I had hoped to stay young forever, but I'd become splendidly middle-aged. Apparently the rumor that even people in the later half of their 20s experience a decline in their physical strength wasn't a lie. I had been mind-numbingly busy at work lately, so I rarely had any time to myself. This might have been the first time I've been able to enjoy a journey alone like this since I was a student. The reason behind this trip was to meet with an old friend. It was a bit strange to call him an old friend. In fact, it might be better to call him a bad one. After retiring a couple years ago, he moved to Sapporo. Sapporo? I don't know if I'm saying that place right, but his mother's hometown. His mother passed away soon after, and he was now peacefully enjoying his second lease on life. His name was Kuroto Ooishi. Ah, Ooishi reference. Okay. He was a former detective from the primary investigation unit at the station in Okinomiya, XX Prefecture. To be honest, the only direct contact we ever had didn't last more than 3 days. After that, we exchanged New Year's cards, but never met again. So, this would be the first time meeting him in 7 years. In other words, we met 7 years ago. In 1978. There was something I just had to ask, to talk to him about concerning that time. To explain that it was impossible not to recall the incident that happened back then. That kidnapping, the details and resolution of which were resigned to darkness. Also, it was impossible not to recall a certain mysterious girl. My name is Mamoru. I keep wanting to say Alaska. Mamoru Akasaka. Akasaka? It's probably something like Akasaka. And then if I was to say Akasaka, people would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Akasaka. It's fun to say Akasaka in like a, I know it's a wrong way of saying things way, you know? Akasaka. Akasaka. Let's go with that. And then again, okay, so 2 things. I need YouTube comments to tell me. 1, why did I pick the wildly wrong option with the middle option there? And then 2, Akasaka. Mamoru Akasaka. I mean, hey, it might be wrong, but if you want to hear me say Akasaka, I'll do it. Akasaka. No, going back to that first thing I need correcting on. If that middle option was a bad one to choose, and there's like a good reason for me to pick another one, I have no problem on my own, unless it gets too late at some point. I don't know when decision making has to be done, but hopefully we can catch it soon enough so that I can just, on my own, I can go back to the beginning part, redo that. Kind of like, remember at the beginning of this playthrough when I disabled the CGs on accident, and I replayed the section so I could get them all? I could basically just do that again, only picking a different option, I assume. Anyway, It can always be fixed, you know? I'm always one to fix things if I need to. It was a year that had been strangely hot, even though it was only June. Only June. Ugh. Ugh. It's almost June here. In real world. That was a little louder than I thought it was going to be. Goodbye, teacher.
はい、さようなら。
Okay, bye.
車に気をつけるんですよ。
Watch out for cars.
お友達の家に寄り道なんかしないように。
And don't drop in at a friend's house along the way.
明日の教科書の準備は必ず寝る前にしておくんですよ。
Make sure you get your textbooks in order for tomorrow before you go to bed. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The lively sounds of children running towards the hallway.
でさ、つってんだぜ。
Hey now, didn't I tell you before?
そんなの俺持ってるわよ。
I already have one of those.
いらねえよ。
I don't need any more. The unique high-pitched voice of youth. The energetic shrill of the cicadas went completely unheard by their ears. Children returning home from school split off one by one from their groups of friends as they went through intersections in the residential area. Even though there were several of them in a group as they left the school, as they got closer to their homes, their numbers dwindled. That's why the few of friends you were walking home with acted as an indicator that you were that much closer to your destination.
じゃあな。
Later!
あばよ。
See ya!
また明日ね。
Yeah, see you tomorrow. He finally parted ways with his last friend. A van was parked at a bend in the road. The window was open, sound of the radio leaking outside. It must have been the news or something.
たため、道路交通法違反、公務執行妨害で3名を逮捕しました。
For that reason, the three of them were arrested for traffic violations and obstruction of justice.
一連のひなみ沢ダム建設反対をめぐる運動は、先月の機動隊との流血事件を境に過激化の一途をたどっており、
Due to the protests against the Inamizawa Dam project resulting in bloodshed when clashing with riot police last month, things have only become more violent.
警察では過激な活動家による次の事件を警戒しています。
The police are therefore taking precautions against radical activists causing yet another incident.
先週も建設省庁舎前での犬飼建設大臣への直訴事件があったばかりで、
Last week, there was also a direct confrontation with Minister Inukai on the steps of the Ministry of Construction. The boy's ears perked up at the mention of the name Inukai. Inukai? Inukai. At that moment, a man's face peeked out suddenly from the window of the van. His behavior was a little different than that of a man looking around to see if there was any incoming traffic before he opened the door of his vehicle. His eyes meeting suddenly with the unfamiliar man, boy panicked slightly.
ウグイス OK。
Nightingale, okay?
ひばり OK。
Skylark, okay.
前後2ブロック確保した。
They've secured the 2 blocks around us.
いいぞ。
We're good to go. The man in the passenger seat whispered quietly. Oh, we got code names. Nodding in acknowledgement, the man opened the door and stood before the boy.
君、犬飼俊樹君？
You. Are you Toshiki Inukai-kun? We get new names for me to fumble through this old. All right, whatever. While asking that, the man peered at the boy's name. I'm so self-conscious about it. The man peered at the boy's name tag. Toshiki Inukai. The name was written plainly there. The phone rang for a third time. If he reached out, he could easily pick up the receiver. However, he was concerned that if he picked it up before it had finished ringing once, whoever was on the other end of the line would think him a fairly cheap person. That's why I normally never picked up the phone until the third ring. Even he thought it was a worthless habit. However, his thinking that there isn't much meaning in waiting for just 3 rings, when waiting for 5 be alright, was very much reality. His mind filled with such trifling thoughts, picked up the phone after the third ring had finished, its reverb dampened by his action.
はい。
Yes?
もしもし。
Hello?
もしもし。
Hello? He knew that sometimes due to malfunction at the switchboard, calls didn't connect well. At those times, it was best to hang up and let the person on the other end call again. Thinking that, the moment he began to hang up the phone, he sensed that he was definitely connected after all. He felt the presence of the person on the other end of the line keeping silent.
もしもし。
Hello? There was no way they didn't hear his question. What was the meaning of this? It wasn't like he didn't know that people could use silent calls to harass others. However, he'd never received a call like that until today. Maybe he was just lucky before, but he didn't believe that he would receive such a call on his phone. There were no direct calls to or from this line. Everything had to go through an operator. Therefore, there's absolutely no way the call would be connected unless it was verified there was somebody else on the other end of the line. That's why I didn't understand how to deal with this silent call, and instead settled into confusion.
あんた、誰だか知らないが、用がないなら切るよ。
Hello. I don't know who you are, but if you have nothing to say, I'm going to hang up.
また、かけ直してください。
Please call again some other time. Intending that to be a parting line, he made to slam down the receiver. It was at that moment the person on the other end spoke for the first time.
あなたが名乗ってくれないから困ってんですよ。
Oh shit, a voice scrambler. You didn't say who you were, so I was anxious.
あんたが犬飼大臣じゃないなら、さっさと電話を切ってください。
This is strange. If you're not Minister Inukai, please hang up right away. He couldn't help but be surprised by the extremely strange voice on the other end of the line. Was there a human alive who could speak with this hoarse and metallic voice? No, this was a voice he had heard somewhere before. That was the kind of voice that was on those lowbrow documentaries that they'd use when they wanted to hide the identity of a speaker, wasn't it? The voice he was hearing over the line was exactly like that.
あんた、誰？
Who are you?
だから、それはこっちが聞いてるんですよ。
As I said, that's what I want to ask.
あんた、犬飼大臣じゃないの？
Are you Minister Inukai? He, Inukai, hesitated to answer. Unable to discern the intent of the suspicious phone call, he had a vague feeling that something was off. He thought about hanging up the phone and asking the operator who initiated the call. However, he forced himself to restrain that urge, and for the time being, chose to state his name and listen.
そうです。
That's right.
犬飼です。
This is Inukai.
名乗りましたよ。だから、あんたも名乗ってくださいよ。
I said my name, now you say yours.
私の名前なんてどうでもいいんです。
My name doesn't matter.
まず、あなたがどういう立場に置かれているか、それを認識するところから始めましょう。
First of all, let's begin by thinking about the situation you're in right now.
あなたは今、自分の席で電話をしていますね。
Right now, you're sitting in your chair talking on the phone. Yes?
では、あなたの席の右側の一番下の引き出しを開けてみてください。
Then, why don't you try opening the lower drawer to your right? The lowest drawer to the right of the minister's chair. There was a lock on it. Not enough to function as a safe, but nevertheless it was a drawer that contained some valuable things. That's why Inukai thought that the person wanted some of the important information contained within that drawer.
すまんが、開けるつもりはないよ。
Sorry, but I don't have any intention of opening that.
自分の名前も名乗れんやつの言いなりになる言われはない。
I have no reason to follow orders from somebody who won't even give me his name.
引き出しを開けてくれないなら、この電話を切ります。
If you don't open that drawer, I'll hang up the phone.
後悔することになりますよ。
You'll most likely end up regretting that.
まずは引き出しを開けてから考えてもいいんじゃないですか？
Why don't you think about opening that drawer first? Inukai didn't like following orders from the suspicious person one bit. However, he was concerned about what the man said about regretting it, so he decided to open the drawer. He took the small key he kept stowed in his wallet and unlocked the drawer. His hand stopped right before he opened it. What if there was a bomb inside, and it would explode if the drawer was opened? That delusion took hold of him. He quelled that instinct and opened it.
開けてくれましたか？
Did you do it?
そこにあるものが何かわかりますよね。
The thing that's in there. Do you know what it is?
これはどういうことだ？
This is... What is the meaning of this?
おい、
Hey!
どういうことか説明する必要なんかないですよね。
I don't think there's any need for me to explain, is there?
時間を差し上げますので、少しお考えください。
I'll give you some time, so please think about it a little.
また後ほどこちらから連絡いたします。
I'll contact you again later.
それでは失礼。
Now then, pardon me.
おい、
Hey!
待て。
Wait!
もしもし、
Hello?
もしもし。
Hello? The call had already ended. That would not change no matter how much he yelled at it. Even still, Inukai, without realizing that, continued yelling into the receiver for a while. The drawer was still open. On top of the folders crammed into the drawer, it lay there. Toshiki Inukai, written in plain lettering on a grade schooler's name tag, just lying there. Enshrined there, completely out of place, as if it were cowering. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, it's a work of fiction, guys. Don't worry. A person was not kidnapped. I mean, people get kidnapped all the time, unfortunately. I mean, this person... You know what I'm trying to say. Oh shit, here we go. I'm closing my eyes, but... Ooh. Oh, we got... Ooh. Ooh.
静寂と強くの支配が不意打ちな涙になる特別と呼べるこの空からいつの間にか熱が消さった過去を紡ぐ境界線目を塞ぐ日々に耐えられなくて終わりにしよう繰り返すもにその瞬間熱くなる嬉しさの
I'm into this music, at least.
仲間たちが笑うからささやかでちっぽけな心に咲いた花は誰かの気持ちで色をまとうかけがえのないいくつもの場面嬉しさも悲しみも生きる私になる過ちも傷跡もそのまま受け止めよう癒されることじゃなくてただ明日を信じるなら
No, the only thing you missed was me flip-flopping, selecting some sort of options at the beginning. Which really is the best things on the stream, so I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, you missed 12. A 12 on the importance scale. A moment. Alright, no, we skipped the burger talk, you know, I wanted to be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Focused. I wanted to be focused tonight, you know? It's Focused Friday. That's what we're calling it. Do you remember, Yuki? This picture. This is where I first proposed to you. That brief moment before you nodded back, you probably wouldn't know just how much it seemed like an eternity to me. Yes, I would have never thought that amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had to wait for you to propose to me, it was. Ha 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 ha. From the moment I met you until today, compared to the time I've spent since I was born, might only be a brief period, but they were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserve to be called an eternity. That time continues even now. From now on, I wonder if it'll be a boy, or maybe a girl. Either one is fine, boy or girl. Either way, it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Mamoru. If it's a girl, we'll put the Yuki in my name, from my name in hers. Thinking about names is so fun that in the end we still haven't decided yet. There's still time to puzzle over it. Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yuki, There's something I have to apologize for today. It's about your job. Sorry. Looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for the delivery. It's fine. You have a very important job. What you do protects the way we live. Compared to you, it's nothing. Please, go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, I'm sorry. Please don't apologize. I kind of read this in a weird way because they're having like some kind of like back and forth, but I didn't really narrate that well. Anyway, you get it. It's fine. I trust. If you feel guilty about it, then you can just atone. If I atone that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. Hee hee. It's a joke. Now, go on. As I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. It was Yuki's father. In other words, my father-in-law.
お父さん
Father.
邪魔する気はなかったからな
I didn't want to intrude,
廊下で待たせてもらったよ
so I waited in the hall.
聞き耳を立てるつもりはなかったが聞こえてしまった
I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard.
行きたまえ
Go.
ユキエはああいう娘だ
Yuki is that kind of girl.
何があっても自分が君の枷になることを望むまい
No matter what happens, she doesn't want to hold you back.
私はこれまでユキエに様々な犠牲を強いてきました
I've forced Yuki to give up on so many things.
出産という人生の節目にまで彼女に犠牲を強いることを恥じます
To put her through this during childbirth, such an important time in her life. I'm ashamed.
君が本当にそう思うなら仕事が終わったらユキエのために時間を割きなさい
If you really feel that way, when you're done with your work, make some time for Yuki.
君が仕事を投げ出して付き添ってくれるよりもそうした方がきっとユキエも喜ぶだろう
She'll be happier with that than you passing your work off on someone else.
ありがとうございます
Thank you.
君がとても大切な仕事をしていることは私もよく知っている
I know full well you do important work.
自分の仕事を誇りに思いなさい
Be proud in what you do.
ユキエは君が見事難題を解決して凱旋するのを楽しみにしている
Yuki is looking forward to your triumphant return.
はい
Yes. These yokers. I jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Compared to the time when I first got here, numbers on the fare meter had grown considerably. It seemed the modest time Yuki and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view.
待たせてすみません
Sorry to keep you waiting.
やってください
Go ahead.
いえいえ
No worries.
では参りますよ
Well then, off we go. The taxi jerked as it changed gears to accelerate, soon burying the hospital my wife was in behind a throng of buildings. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, and on top of that, one who's off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gathering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. This was the first time, though, that I experienced everybody gathering together like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. Right when my wife was about to give birth, or ready to give birth. If I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes, I'd be here all day. I am going to assume that the most tragic thing is going to happen by the end of this chapter. And I can only assume... Yeah. My read on the situation is that this guy is not going to make it to see, especially if we're just, like, randomly plopped a new, like, narrator's voice or a new character's perspective in a random chapter 4 that in all intents and purposes is kind of like apparently like a side chapter thing is from everything we're being explained. And then it's all about the opening here is all about him like, oh, please make it back. My wife's about to have a baby and we still haven't named the kid and we don't know what it's going to be. And oh my God, don't worry. It's a work thing. I'll be back. Don't you worry. only the worst thing can happen. Unless they're playing on that fact that we feel that, right? It plays the whole reverse card on us. That's not what ends up happening, but makes us just think that, you know, on purpose. But my money right now is that he's gonna die. Even the verdant ginkgo trees lining the street that always brighten my mood seem to lack some of their usual luster. Eventually, the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was doing was important, necessary, and difficult. I composed myself and sharpened my wit. Ready. Taxi stopped in front of the building. I'm not going to try to pronounce the place.
全員揃いました。
It was too difficult for my dumb brain. Chief, everyone's here.
赤坂くん、ブラインドを下ろしてくれる？
Akaska-kun? Could you close the blinds? The blinds were usually closed when they needed to use the projector, or if the discussion was going to contain some particularly disturbing content. Ka-chink. The blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior of the room. Immediately, the inside of the room was completely drained of the pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind only the cold illumination of the fluorescent lighting. After the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. With everybody on the edge of their seats, Chief stood up solemnly and began to give his report.
推定48時間前、建設大臣の孫にあたる建設省幹部の子息が誘拐された模様です。
Approximately 48 hours ago, the Minister of Construction's grandson, who is also the son of one of his staff leaders, is believed to have been kidnapped. Alright, so that was what we saw in the opening bit thing. The one guy, Minister of Construction, that we saw then even right before that, the little kid who was like near like a van or something, and then they had the code names or something, get scooped, and then that's where we're at right now. Great.
建設大臣は事態を穏便に済ませるため、警察へ通報せず要求に応じるものと思われます。
It is believed the minister, in an effort to resolve matters amicably, chose not to report the situation to police and plans to cede to the demands imposed upon him. It seemed that approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson, who was also the son of one of his senior staff members, was kidnapped. The reason why it was phrased that way was because the person in question didn't admit it had happened.
大臣宅の通話を監視した結果、都外からと思われる不審な電話が数件確認されました。
Based on the results of surveillance conducted on the minister's residence, multiple suspicious phone calls from what is believed to be outside the city took place.
誘拐された子供は病気療養中となっているが、通院の形跡はなく、周辺での目撃例もなく。
The abducted child is said to be under treatment for some illness, but there's no trace of any hospital records or witnesses to such effect.
その他いくつかの理由から、事件発生は間違いないものと断定しました。
Due to that and various other reasons, we believe without a doubt that a kidnapping has occurred. Here, they admitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that meant that before this incident happened, the minister's residence had been under surveillance already. I won't use the word spied upon. Of course, there wouldn't have been court approval for this, it would have been very hard to explain to ordinary citizens. However, it was quite an effective method to catch wind of incidents like this before they got worse. I'd like for you to understand that dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division.
なぜ警察に通報せず要求を鵜呑みに？
Why is he just following their demands instead of reporting this to the police?
大臣たる者が警察を信用できないってんだから。世も末だね。
The fact that a minister can't even trust the police. What is the world coming to?
犯人グループは誘拐初期に自分たちが大臣の生活をかなり高度に監視していることを警告し、その証拠を示した様子です。
It seems the group of perpetrators demonstrated that they have quite a high level of surveillance on the minister themselves when they conducted the kidnappings.
大臣が屈服し、警察への通報も思いとどまるほどの何かですね。
Enough to give the minister pause before calling the police.
警察へ通報してもすぐにわかるぞって？
We'll find out right away if you call the cops, more or less.
大臣の近辺に内通者がいる可能性か。
So, it's possible that there's a mole close to the minister. Several of the higher ranking members who seem to have experience with this kind of thing let out deep sighs.
犯人グループの目的が要求にあるのか、事件そのものにあるのかは不明ですが。
The goals of the perpetrators, their demands, as well as this entire incident are as yet unclear.
いずれにせよ、国益を脅かす事態に発展する可能性が極めて高い。
But in any case, the possibility that this may grow to threaten national interests is extremely high. If their goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain, that would have been nice. However, if this was some politically motivated shakeup, things would get a lot more complicated.
被害者の協力がないということは、脅迫内容も要求も一切不明ということか。
Since we're not receiving any cooperation from the victim, it means that we're not privy to any of the details of threats or demands.
本件は内通者の水準がかなり高いと思われるため、当室のみの極秘捜査とします。
Due to the fact we believe there may be a mole involved in this incident, this investigation is highly classified. Only the people in this room are to know of this.
また本件は本日より最優先事項となり、これまでの通常業務を一時凍結して対応します。
Furthermore, as this case is our utmost priority, we'll be placing a hold on everybody's normal duties.
よろしいですね。
Understood? After that, the supervisor continued on, tactfully explaining our course of action. If this incident were to become public, it was possible that the minister's political life would be over. I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support in the Diet would decline, followed by a no-confidence vote and a snap election. And might even expand communist influences. Oh no, not the communist influences! In other words, we wanted to handle this delicately.
川崎と佐伯は大臣宅、子供宅の通話を24時間監視。
Kawasaki and Saiki monitor communications from the minister and the child's residences 24/7.
大臣の動向を探れ。
Find out what the minister is doing.
動きがあるたびに逐一報告せよ。
Report anything that happens.
残る各職員は担当団体ごとに本件との関連を調査。
The remaining members investigate whatever is related to the case as assigned to your units.
最近動きが不穏な特殊ラインは集中的にやれ。
Focus your line of investigation on the commies, Reds, and Confeds. Okay.
それから外国勢力も水を漏らすな。
Don't discount the possibility of foreign involvement either. I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This, however, was the first time I've seen things get so hectic. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. I didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation.
では書き打ちに行ってくれ。
And cover that.
で、赤坂君は
As for, Akasuka-kun, I snapped back to alertness upon hearing my name called.
はい。
Yes?
赤坂君は大臣に陳情してきた環境保護団体関連を調査してくれ。
You investigate the environmental groups that have petitioned the minister.
中でも新聞でも騒ぎになってるひなみ沢ダム建設反対の団体をよく調査すること。
Among them, there's that group protesting the Hinamazawa Dam project that made the papers. Make sure you investigate them thoroughly. Okay, so we see how this is drawing this random character that we've been given control of. We're seeing how he's being pulled into the village of Hinamazawa, as you would have expected. Because I would not have assumed that we were going to get some kind of weird side chapter that then had no draw back to the story we've already been told, at least a bit in the first 3 chapters. Now, we are getting, at least in the timeline-wise, this is back. It's further back. This is during the protest, clearly. Which is actually interesting, you know? We kind of want to see... I want to see more of that. I want to see more of this. We need more potential, or if anything, just I want to see like that this moment in time in the story fleshed out.
住民団体の仕業とは到底思えないが、全ての可能性を潰していかなくてはならない。
I doubt this is the act of some citizen group, but we have to eliminate every possibility we can.
わかりました。
Understood.
ひなみ沢ダム反対か。
So there's opposed to the Inamizawa Dam.
直接現地へ行った方がいいだろう。
It's probably best if you go to the location personally.
現地県警で情報を取れ。
Get some information from the local authorities.
かなり過激な団体らしく、向こうの公安でもマークしてるらしいぞ。
They're a fairly radical organization, so the public safety division there should have them marked as well.
わかりました。
Understood.
現地へ出向します。
I'll head over there.
奥さん、出産控えてるんだって？
Your wife, she's almost ready to give birth, isn't she? It would be a damn shame if you damn lol. It would be a damn shame if you didn't make it back to her.
こんなタイミングで申し訳ないけど、協力頼むよ。
I apologize for the timing of all this, but I'm counting on your cooperation.
時間がかけられないから、人海戦術で総当たりで行くしかないんだ。
Can't take our time with this, so we just have to brute force it with our boots to the ground.
ええ、わかってます。
Yeah, I know.
家内も自分の都合が私の仕事に触ることを嫌いますから。
My wife hates to interfere with my work with her own circumstances anyways.
すまん、ありがとう。
Sorry, and thanks.
それから、川崎くん、佐伯くん、君たちの応援には。
So then, as for Kawasaki-kun, and Saiki-kun to help support your trails off. I didn't want to take a business trip when my wife was about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment, though, that would be difficult. Even so, I knew the work I was doing was important and fully understood that I was in no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up to my wife for having to be away at such an important time. My wife, Yuki, would probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she could hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, at least wished she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yuki. I don't mind if you always complain to our child that their father couldn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. ... The next day, I took the bullet train to Nagoya, and from there, transferred to the train to XX Prefecture. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. If I was traveling by air, in that amount of time I could probably get as far as Hong Kong. XX Prefecture was by no means close. I never sat in first class except for work, but whenever I did, the seat seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read yesterday. The group under investigation, Nonigafuchi Guardians. They were a group of residents opposed to the development proposed under the Hinamizawa Dam project. The local protests were quite heated, and were getting more radicalized. Even limited to what was written in the newspapers, there was bloodshed that occurred during a clash with riot police, interference with the dam construction, too many to count. The number of petitions, sit-ins, and direct appeals to the relevant organizations were innumerable. As an extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Minister of Construction the other day.
これがそもそも今回この団体を調査することになったゆえんだ。
This was the reason why we were investigating this group in the first place. The land that they lived on was going to be submerged, so it was no wonder that they would go into a frenzy over it. Even given that, though, could they really be capable of doing something like kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson in order to halt the project? For my take on it, I had serious doubts. This kidnapping plot was extremely sophisticated and complicated enough that it was believed that there was some political backing. This wasn't something that could be pulled off by some group of local protesters. Well, just like the chief said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I'm in the XX Police's reference room, taking my time investigating, the higher-ups in Tokyo would probably solve the case. Without my involvement entirely. Even if that was true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo while my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. There was really nothing that I could do. Ding dong. The announcement that we would be arriving at our destination soon snapped me back to wakefulness. This guy constantly has to be, like, jolted awake. Wake up, my guy!
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟ですか。
The Onigafuchi Guardians.
ええ、地元ではかなり賑わせているようです。
Yeah, they've been quite active around here. Prefectural Public Safety Department already had the documents and a cup of tea ready and waiting for me.
早い話がダム反対の住民運動なんですが。
The short of it is that they're a group of residents opposed to the dam.
事実上水没地域の住民すべてが決起したと言っていいでしょうね。
Really, it's probably better to say that every resident living on the land that's going to be submerged is rising to action, though.
死守なんて古風な言い方が示す通り、相当の決意と覚悟を持った連中です。
Like the old saying, fight to the last. They're determined and well prepared lot.
そこら辺の温和な住民団体とは一線を画すと思っていただいた方がいいですね。
It'd be nice if they drew the line at just being a moderate residential organization. The stack of papers they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin.
発足当初はごくごく平均的な住民運動だったんです。
At first, they were pretty much your average citizens initiative, but
それがいつだかの流血事件を境に急にヒートアップしまして、
ever since that incident with the riot police, they've really started to heat up.
今では暴力主義団体かそれに準じるくらいの過激な勢力に成長したと言えますね。
Now they've got a violent mentality on top of growing increasingly radical. Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regards to the democratic process. Breaking that down, many of those organizations held extreme left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that a citizens group would end up going as far. Radical citizens movements happen occasionally. It seemed, however, that this group was nothing as trifling as that. It seemed that I would have to reconsider exactly what this Onigafuchi Guardians was.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が要求、つまりダム計画の撤回を求めるために行いうる活動範囲はどの程度でしょうか。
The Guardians demand, in other words, the withdrawal of the dam project. How far would they go to have that demand met? The kidnapping of the minister's grandson was classified. That meant, of course, I couldn't tell the XX prefectural department about it either.
ご存知の通り、先週あった犬飼建設大臣への直訴事件では逮捕者も出ています。
As you know, there were arrests after last week's confrontation with Minister Inukai.
危険性は十分にありますね。
There's enough reason to believe that they could use illegal means to assert their demands. I skimmed over the list of the criminal records related to the Onigafuchi Guardians recorded in the documents. The contents were all violent, not giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law.
具体的に教えていただけますか。
Could you give me a basic rundown of the types of illegal activities the Onigafuchi Guardians are engaging in? The chief opened up a manila envelope, fished out several unorganized sheets, and spread them out on the desk.
建設現場への襲撃事件が最も多かったですね。
It seems that raids on the construction site are the most common.
初期の頃、電源コードの切断や錠前の鍵穴に石を詰める、投石による事務所の窓ガラス割り等の軽犯罪が頻発していました。
At first, they were committing relatively petty crimes like cutting power cords, jamming locks, and breaking office windows by throwing rocks. Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, and distribution of pamphlets, lively but democratic forms of protest. However, then the demonstrators and police clashed, which started a riot, leading to numerous injuries and arrests. It was from then on that the Onigafuchi Guardians, like their name implies, began to take a more demonic form of resistance. Fun.
襲撃が度重なれば地元警察による警備強化がなされるのでは。
If the raids were frequent, didn't the local police up their patrols?
それは警戒はしたでしょうね。
Well, of course they were on full alert, but
でもあちらは地元ですから。
they were up against locals, you know?
闇に乗じて忍び込まれたらお手上げでしょう。
There weren't much the police could do if they were sneaking around under the cover of darkness. You might as well label the entire map of Hinamazawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, locals would just show them exactly how easy it was to sneak around.
警察が警備を固めてからは、むしろ挑発されたように過激化が進みました。
Actually, it was after the police upped security that the protesters started getting ever more extreme, as though they were being provoked. Who would have thunk that's what the reaction would be?
ほら、この辺りからだいぶヒートアップしてるのがお分かりになります？
See here? Can you tell if things started to heat up?
事務所の放火、
An office set on fire,
建設重機の破壊工作。
the destruction of heavy construction equipment.
破壊？
Destruction?
まさか爆弾でも？
They couldn't have used explosives?
いや、まさか。
No way.
連中ですね。タンクに角砂糖を放り込むんですよ。
You see, they cram the gas tanks full of sugar cubes.
あれやられたらエンジン焦げついちゃいますから。
If they do that, it fouls the engines. Even in Japan, it seemed there had been people doing that to the vehicles of occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, it was extremely violent and aggressive.
そこまでやられたら地元警察の面目は丸つぶれですね。
After being toyed around with that to that extent, the local police have completely lost face.
放火はさすがにですね。
The arson was a bit much.
それで地元警察が24時間体制の人員を大幅に増員しまして。
After that, the local police drastically increased the number of personnel they had stationed there around the clock.
それで建設現場への襲撃は一段落したようです。
The raids on the construction site quieted down a bit after that. He used the words quieted down, but that was still smack dab in the middle of the list of crimes.
で、連中ですね。
See? After that, they...
現場への直接攻撃が難しくなったとしたら、今度は個人攻撃に切り替えました。
After they found that attacking the site had become difficult, they started resorting to personal attacks.
最初に狙われたのが工事事務所の現場作業者でした。
The first people targeted were construction workers. After that, there was silence. What was being described to me was like a guerrilla war fought in the jungle. Gorilla, not whatever. Threats of violence. I hate saying that word out loud because like basically if you're just like reading it out loud, like gorilla and gorilla are gonna like sound the same, but then I get in my head about it and I'm like, oh, I didn't pronounce it well enough. I get into my own head as I do with everything in life. Threats and violence against the workers. Harsh words and harsher rocks were thrown.
かなりの告訴がされているのに逮捕者があまり出ていませんね。
There's quite a list of accusations here, but there's not a whole lot of convictions.
そりゃそうです。
Of course not.
第一、目撃者なんかいないんですから。
First of all, there's no witnesses.
それどころか、現行犯だったにしたって、アリバイがポンポンポンとできちゃうんです。
On top of that, even if we identify the perpetrators, they have alibis coming out of the woodwork.
それはどういうことですか?
What do you mean by that?
例えばですね、あなたがひなみ沢で歩いていて、
Take for example, you're walking around Hinamizawa.
ある男にナイフで刺されたとします。
When a certain man stabs you with a knife.
あなたは相手をよく覚えていて、名前も住所も特定できてるとします。
You remember the person clearly and even know his name and address.
ただし、ナイフには指紋がなく、物的証拠だけがない。
However, the knife doesn't have any fingerprints on it. There's no other physical evidence.
まあ、ありがちな傷害事件だと思うでしょ?
Well, you think this would be a run-of-the-mill case of assault, wouldn't you?
でも、ひなみ沢じゃ完全犯罪なんです。
In Hinamizawa, though, it's a perfect crime. Everybody is... the entire village, they're all in on it. To protect the man who is the perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and prepare an alibi. See, this is... I mean, the whole alibi thing was what I was talking about in the previous chapter. I was 1,000,000% convinced that the whole village was prepared and ready to make an alibi for Kichi. And so much so that Mion and Rina were gonna tell him that they were making an alibi for him and he just needed to act chill. And they had even potentially moved the body. Again, my assumption. But then he was like, no, I gotta go to the doctors. And then things got fucked from there, you know? Whatever. To protect the man who is the perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and prepare an alibi. To that end, they'll probably even forge some evidence.
裁判にもつれ込ますほかないわけですが、
There's nothing they can do but put them on trial.
何しろ物的証拠はない上、犯人を隠匿する証言だけは後から増えていく。
On top of there not being any material evidence, though, people testify one after another to cover a side of the story.
検察も書類送検には二の足を踏むわけです。
Any prosecutor would hesitate to file charges.
殺人ならいざ知らず、投石で額を切った、殴られてあざができた程度だと、仮に犯人を特定できたとしても、嫌疑不十分で送検されないことがほとんどです。
I'm not sure about murder, but if it's something like opening a gash on somebody's forehead with a thrown rock or leaving a bruise after hitting someone, even if you could single out the suspect, there's enough reasonable doubt to not convict. Every case is without a doubt perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it is, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. So let's just arrest the whole village. Take them all into custody. The villagers were all extremely well informed about this, and so the malicious, vicious, and tenacious personal attacks continued.
被害者はそれでは納得できないでしょう。
The victims can't have been okay with that, right?
検察審査会に再審請求を出さないのですか？
Couldn't they have filed for an appeal?
それはですね、審査員たちがみんな厄介ごとに巻き込まれたくないと思っているからですよ。
Well, you see, about that, everybody on the inquest committee didn't want to get involved in something so troublesome.
ひなみ沢関係のトラブルには首を突っ込みたがらないんです。
They won't stick their noses into anything related to Yamazawa. The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event the prosecutor fails to get a conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. It's a system designed to assert the will of the people and the actions of expert prosecutors in the legal world. In this case, however, being composed of local residents has backfired.
首を突っ込みたがらない。
They don't want to get involved?
それはなぜです？
Why is that?
なんて説明すればいいんでしょう。
How do I explain this?
恐れられているって言えばいいのかな。
You could say they're afraid,
あそこはね、少し特殊なんです。
since it's a little special there.
特殊？
Special?
何か政治的なバックボーンが存在するということですか？
Is it an outcast committee? Or community?
いえ、そういうのとは少し違うというか。
No, it's a little different from that.
まあ怖がられていると思ってください。
Well, just think of it as them being afraid.
この辺りは口では少し説明しにくいんです。
It's a little hard to explain it just now.
ああ、そうだ。わかりやすいのがありました。
Oh, right. There's an easier way. Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as a list of members of the Onigafuchi Guardians.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の勢力にはですね、
The power of the Onigafuchi Guardians, you see,
近隣の町々に強い影響力を持つ人間が多々おりまして、
is the fact that they count many people among their members who are influential in neighboring areas.
この辺をご覧いただけますか？
Could you take a look at this? I looked. What I saw startled me. Prefectural and municipal assembly members, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce. Joking. Sorry. An executive of a business association, an executive of a town council association, and a PTA liaison. There were more than a few people with a lot of say both locally and in the neighboring regions.
この界隈では、ひなみ沢のダム反対運動は皆静観しているのが普通なんです。
Around here, you could pretty much expect your actions to be observed by those against the dam project.
ダムを肯定するような発言をすると、どこでどう巡って不利益を被るかわからない。
If you said something in its support, who knows how it would work out to your disadvantage.
何しろ近隣の町の喉元は、ひなみ沢出身の人間が抑えていますからね。
In any case, every town in this area is being held by the throat by somebody from Hinamizawa.
検察審査員のリストは非公開でしょう。
The list of Inquisition Committee members is undisclosed, isn't it?
報復がされないように何らかの措置が取られているはずでは。
There has to be some measures in place to make sure they would avoid retribution, no?
一応、非公開でプライバシーは守られてますがね。
Well, it is undisclosed, so the privacy is assured, but
それを管理してるのは、沖宮市役所の人間。
the person in charge of that is from the Okinomiya Municipal Office.
つまり、地元の人間なんです。
In other words, a local.
守秘義務があるとはいえ、 やはり人間のつながりは分かりませんからね。
Well, you might expect some professional confidentiality. Can't know how everybody's connected.
ひなみ沢の人間はそのあたりのつながりがことのほか強固ですから。
The people from Hinamizawa have a lot of tight bonds in that regard. When you consider the obligations and duties people have to the region, the web of information thereby formed is nothing to scoff at. It's not uncommon for housewives in a neighborhood to know which kid from which house is what grade in which school, what subjects they're good at, and what vegetables they hate, among other things.
それにほら、ひなみ沢と遅延の深い暴力団組織がありましてね。
You see, there's a Yakuza organization here with strong ties to Hinamizawa and the surrounding area.
これが今回の騒動に全面バックアップしてるらしいんです。
It would seem that they're providing full support in these recent incidents.
こちらが出てくるのが一番効いてるみたいですね。
They seem to be proving most effective.
暴力団
Gangsters.
ダムの建設反対で住民と一致
Siding together with the residents opposed to the construction of the dam?
どういう利害が一致するのか読みがたいですね。
It's a little hard to see what their common interest is.
それは難しいことじゃないです。
It's not that difficult at all.
実はですね、この暴力団の組長がですね、ひなみ沢村の出身なんです。
You see, actually, one of the lieutenants in that gang is originally from Hinamizawa.
村の重鎮の一人の婿養子にあたりまして。
He was adopted into a rather influential family in the village. Exactly what was this Hinamizawa? I thought it was some desolate, rustic village. However, for some reason they exerted strong influence on the surrounding areas and had a strong sense of unity. They would protect their village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. The chief had said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there, but somehow I got the feeling that they were afraid of the village itself. There was something clearly different from what I had read in the documents in Tokyo. This was no simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling began to nestle itself at the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask my question. In other words, I directly asked what I wanted to know. Am I gonna die? Chief.
これは例えば仮の話ですが
This is just a hypothetical situation, but...
はい
Huh?
例えばその鬼ヶ淵主導名が
This Onigafushi Guardians,
ダム計画を頓挫させるため
in order to halt the dam project,
要人を脅迫するようなことは考えられますか
do you think they could, say, threaten somebody important to accomplish that? The chief replied immediately.
ありえるでしょう。
It's possible.
事実、彼らは市役所や県庁、建設省の工事事務所にも押しかけ、恫喝まがいのことをしていますし。
Truth be told, they've already gone to municipal and prefectural offices, as well as local offices of the Ministry of Construction, and done things that could be construed as intimidation.
工事関係者の家族が不審者につけ回されたという事件も起こっています。
Several of the workers' families have also reported that they're being followed around by some suspicious people. Well, that would make sense. To halt progress on the dam, they raided the construction site, destroying heavy machinery and lighting the construction office on fire. If they didn't have any qualms about doing that, threats and violence against people related to the dam would probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hoodlum could use threats and violence. However, this time it was a kidnapping of the minister's grandson, an abnormally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender to their demands immediately. There was no way this was the work of amateurs. Did these people have the power to enact this large of a crime? This was the heart of the matter. That was the heart of the matter. Was the Onigafushi Guardians an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question, once again, I chose the most basic method.
例えば政府要人の関係者を誘拐して脅迫なんてことがあり得ると思いますか
Again, hypothetically, do you think they could kidnap a relative of someone of political importance? There's no way they could pull off something that big. That was the answer I most hoped for. If it was that answer, my work was as good as halfway done. I might be able to get back in time for my wife to give birth. That was how it was supposed to be. The chief, without a hint of hesitation, replied,
やるかもしれません。
They just might.
底の知れない連中ですから。
There's no telling how far they'd go. Sorry, Yuki. It seemed like my work wouldn't end so simply after all.
Oh, Akasaka-kunか。
Oh, Kasuka-kun.
ご苦労さん。
Good work.
担当地域での情報収集はどうですか？
How's the information gathering at your assigned region?
順調です。
It's coming along.
これから現地警察の公安と接触できることになりましたので、現地へ向かう予定です。
Seems I'll be able to meet with their local public safety department, so I'm planning on heading out that way.
東京の調査の方はどうですか？
How's the investigation in Tokyo going?
他の職員も順調に調査を進めているよ。
The others are progressing along, but
でも調べる団体が星の数だからね。
the number of groups we have to investigate are countless.
そんなに悠長に時間もかけられないし。
Time isn't really a luxury here. There were no new developments at this time. No matter how suspicious the Onigafuchi Guardians was, if they solved the case in Tokyo, my job was done. It looked like my wishful thinking wouldn't come to pass. Hanging up the phone, I let my gaze drift outside the window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings.
赤坂さん、
Kasuka.
今お貸しできる車が戻ってきました。
A car you could borrow just returned.
ご案内しますので、こちらへどうぞ。
I'll take you to it, so follow me.
あ、すみません。
Ah, thank you. He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot where a battered sedan was waiting for me. That the steering wheel kept drifting to the left was a little concerning, damn, but it would be enough to get me around for a while. Take this shitty car. My destination was Shishibone City, XX Prefecture, an area under the control of the Onigafuchi Guardians. The Okinomiya police station was right on the front lines. I love shitty cars though. I'm not talking shit about shitty cars. My car currently is a pretty shitty car. It's actually pretty good. It's just got a ton of miles on it, and it looks ugly because I just didn't keep up with it as far as like the washings. Potentially, it's seen a lot of shit basically. Anyway, an area under the basically what I'm trying to say is I shouldn't be talking shit about this beat up car that he was apparently given. People in glass houses, basically, type situation. An area under the control of the Onigafuchi Guardians. The Okinomiya police station was right on the front lines. Nearum. Okinomiya police station. XX Prefecture. Shishibone City was, as far as provincial cities went, rather behind the times. Okinomiya, recessed in the mountains, was even more remote. With little change between the seasons, all that was left was the tepid passage of time, made for a rather drab town. There were no tourist attractions or local delicacies. Without even a strong regional industry, it was simply dull. Just looking at the monotonous and peaceful townscape, it was hard to catch a glimpse of the radical resistance of the Onigafuchi Guardians. Man, you just know with just how well documented, Hinamizawa loves its, its outsiders, the outsiders that visit their village. You know they're just gonna love that he's coming there, The atmosphere of boredom didn't hint of the Okinomiya police station being on the front lines of the dam conflict, nor of the numerous incidents that I'd heard about at the prefectural headquarters. Yeah, this might be before Angel Mort is set up. Although, I don't know if I would say Angel Mort. Well, it had its things, right? I don't know. I don't know whether to fully commit saying Angel Mort is a big tourist attraction or not. I guess they treated it like it was kind of special and it had its special things. Yeah. Much to consider. An office worker says, "Good morning. Are you here to pay a fine?"
いえ、公安部の本田屋さんにアポイントがあります。
No, I have an appointment with Hondaya-san from the Public Safety Division.
赤坂とお伝えください。
Please tell him it's Akaska.
ち失礼しました。少々お待ちください。
My apologies. Please wait a minute. The clerk, who thought that I was here for a parking violation at first glance, after fumbling with the unfamiliar extension number, told the person on the line they had a visitor.
どうもどうも。
Welcome, welcome. It's like me at the beginning of a stream. Welcome, welcome to the stream, welcome to the stream.
赤坂さんでいらっしゃいますか？遠路はるばるお疲れ様でした。
Akasuka-san, was it? It must have been tiring traveling out all this way.
こんな部屋で申し訳ありませんね。応接室を押さえてあったんですがね。
Sorry we have to do this here. I tried to reserve a reception room, you see.
議員さんが突然お越しになっちゃったんで追い出されちゃいまして。
But the counselor suddenly woke up and chased me out. I would hesitate to call where we were a conference room, as it was very small and cluttered. The cramped space was packed with lockers. I had the impression that it was more of a change room that doubled as one for smoking. Listening to his crude chortles, I didn't get much of a feeling that Hondaya, who was head of the local public safety division, was much of an intellectual. But I knew that, in exchange, he had both experience and absolute confidence in his instincts.
ご多忙中、突然お邪魔して申し訳ありませんでした。
I apologize for interrupting you during such a busy time.
警視庁から参りました。赤坂と申します。
I'm Akasuka from the Metropolitan Police Department.
よろしくお願いします。
Pleased to make your acquaintance.
公安部の本田屋です。
Hondaya from the Public Safety Division.
よろしくよろしく。
Nice to meet you.
県警防隊の3階部長から協力を惜しむなと脅されておりますので。
I was threatened by Sankai from the prefectural gangbusters to be generous with my cooperation.
防隊
Gangbusters?
県警の暴力団対策本部ですか？
You mean the prefectural crime prevention division?
うちじゃ鬼ヶ淵支所の連中は暴力団の延長に位置づけてますんでね。
You see, we're treating the Onigafuchi Guardians as an extension of local Yakuza.
あれを善意の住民運動だなんてあんた、東城もいいとこですわ。
You'd have to be a newbie if you think they're just a residential protest group. They said at the prefectural office, too, that the Onigafuchi Guardians was linked to the local mob. If I recall correctly, the adopted son of somebody influential was a lieutenant in that gang.
そりゃ逆。
It's the other way around.
全然逆ですよ。暴力団の活動があって、それに住民団体が大義名分みたいにくっついていると、そういう風に考えてください。
The complete opposite. The Yakuza put up the protest group as a front to justify their actions. Just think of it like that.
逆逆。
Completely the other way around. Hondaya. Whatever. Was just about rolling with laughter. I was gonna say something, I'm taking it back. It wasn't anything funny or good, so. This was slightly different than the info given to me at the prefectural office, but somebody embedded locally would be more knowledgeable. While we were talking, occasionally some people who seemed to be detectives would come in and change. One of those individuals, noticing Hondaya's guffaws, came up to us. Hondaya? Oh, this guy. I was wondering what you guys were talking about.
おお、クラちゃん。
Oh, Kura-chan.
ちょうどよかった。クラちゃんも入ってよ。
Perfect timing. Why don't you join us?
こちら、はるばる東京の警視庁からお見えになった赤坂警部。
This here's Inspector Akasuka, who came all the way from the Tokyo Police Department.
警部だなんて。
Well, it was mentioned at the very start, I believe, if I'm getting all the characters correct. At the very, very start, when we first opened this, there was the bit where he's like, yeah, it was like a flash forward thing. And it was like, I'm gonna meet, I'm gonna go meet Ooishi, and I haven't seen him in so many years. And it was like, yeah, I wouldn't describe him as a good guy. It's quite the opposite. He was kind of a bad guy. So whatever ends up happening between... Well, now I'm just answering something I talked about before. If Akasuka... If that was... Was that Akasuka? Then he doesn't die? Am I getting the character straight? Was that Akasuka? I guess it was. It had to have been him. Who else would it have been? Whatever. Akasuka says, Inspector.
まだまだ新米です。
I'm still a rookie.
赤坂です。よろしくお願いします。
My name is Akasuka. Pleased to meet you.
初々しいのがいいですね。
Well, whatever ends up happening, I'm assuming that Ooishi is back to being, is gonna be his ever shitty self as normal by the end of the chapter. It must be nice to be so fresh-faced.
採用は今年ですか?
Did they hire you this year? No. Couldn't help but think I was being ridiculed, so I only responded with a forced smile. I could tell that this new person was like Hondaya, the type who had confidence in their instincts and experience. I really didn't like those types of people.
赤坂さんにもご紹介します。
Let me introduce you, Kasuka-san.
こちらは刑事部の大石君。
This is Ooishi-kun from our investigative department.
赤坂さんがお問い合わせの S5 の件なら彼が詳しいです。
Regarding the S file you were talking about, he's familiar with it.
S5?
S file.
園崎の S。
S for Sonozaki.
S 号ってのはですね、園崎家が関連している件を示す、まあ、暗号みたいなもんなんです。
If something is an S file, it means it has something to do with the Sonozaki family. It's something of a code name. Sonozaki? Come to think of it, I remembered when I was poring over the documents at headquarters, there were quite a few people with the last name Sonozaki popping up.
確か、園崎氏は鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の役員でしたね。
If I remember right, there's a Sonozaki who is one of the executives of the Onagafuchi Guardians.
確か会計だったと思います。
I'm pretty sure they're the treasurer. The two of them were surprised when I rattled off what post that Sonozaki held. After a moment, both of them erupted into laughter.
赤坂さんでしたっけ?
Akasaka-san. Was it? No.
あなた、お勉強家さんですね。
You're quite the studious one.
ひょっとして同盟の連中の主要人物全部暗記してるんじゃ?
Could it be you've memorized all the central figures in the alliance? No.
暗記というほどではありませんが、一応鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の幹部リストは一読しました。
I wouldn't say memorized exactly, but I've at least read the list of Onagafuchi Guardians executives.
じゃあ会長と副会長は?
Then who are the president and vice president?
会長は現ひなみ沢村村長の君吉喜一郎氏。
The president is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Kichiro Kimiyoshi.
副会長は町会神社部長の古出氏。
The vice president is the priest of the local shrine, Furude.
会計が園崎を領して、会計監査は牧野氏。
The treasurer is Oryu Sonozaki. The auditor is Makino.
教頭部長が君吉義郎氏。広報部長が園崎貞夫氏。
The liaison is Yoshiroshi Kimiyoshi. PR head is Sato Sonozaki. No.
赤坂さん、あなたなかなかやりますね。
Akasuka-san, you're pretty good.
給料安いけど、うちに来ません?
The pay sucks, but you want to work here?
うちに一番必要で、一番いないタイプですよ。
You're just the type we're looking for.
で、ちなみに園崎貞夫は青年部長なんです。
By the way, Sato Sonozaki is head of the youth department.
惜しいですね。広報部長は園崎忠孝。
So close! The head of public relations is actually Tadataka Sonozaki. Feeling like I wasn't being complimented at all, I started settling into an uncomfortable mood. However, I was becoming more and more aware that I was the weakest link in this investigation, so I just had to bear with it. I didn't mean for that feeling to show up on my face, but the crafty detectives didn't let that slip by.
I
love laughing as no Ooishi. No. This is just what he does. I didn't mean to make fun of you.
詫びと言っちゃなんですが、なんでしたら村を実際にご案内しましょう。
To make up for it, why don't I show you around the village? For somebody with no feel for the area like me, it would be a great help. I couldn't have asked for more.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟ってのは結局ひなみ沢村の対外的な別称に過ぎません。
In the end, the Onigafuchi Guardians is nothing more than the alias Hinamizawa is using to deal with the outside world.
村を知ることがあなたのお仕事の近道だと思いますよ。
I think getting to know the village would speed up your work.
いかがです？
How about it? The residential movement, in other words, held influence over the whole region, so the leader of the movement was the leader of that influence. Just like that, the thought process in the region would become the overall personality of the movement. Just like Ooishi had said, in order to learn what they were actually like, this regional force behind the dam protests, getting to know the village was the quickest way. If you would. Nodding back without skipping a beat, Ooishi laughed in satisfaction and stood up. If I took the information I learned at the prefectural office and from Handaya to heart, if my position was exposed, my personal safety was at risk. The opponent was an extremist group that had no qualms about using threats or violence against somebody. If my personal opinion was leaked, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that I'd be in danger, whether on the job or not. Thinking that, I felt a little nervous. These guys are quick to remember faces. If you're seen with me, they'll probably do a lot to hinder your work. This might be a little cliche, but put these on. Ooishi handed me an incredibly suspicious disguise comprised of a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. Damn, I really thought he was just going to hand him like a pair of sunglasses, and that's it. I didn't want to get all hot and stuffy, but Ooishi's warning was probably right on the money. Considering that, I put them on with appreciation. I looked so suspicious that Ooishi had to smile wryly. How much should I tell you again? Let's see.
御三家という旧家が村を支配しているというところまでです。
To the part where you're talking about these three ancient families control the village. How these three ancient families control the village. The Onigafuchi Guardians was the same as the village of Hinamizawa itself, meaning there was a direct correlation between being an executive in the alliance and being a leader in the village, as Handaya had told me a short time ago. If the village was ruled by three ancient families, then it would mean the Onigafuchi Guardians was ruled by those same three families. What did the documents at the prefectural office say? About the leader of the Guardians or whatnot. The documents I was using were classified. If I responded to Ishi's question, it'd be a breach of security. However, most likely, this man, I judged, was more well versed in the situation than any of the documents at the prefectural police department, so I decided to answer him.
同盟の会長は現村長の君吉喜一郎と。
But the president of the alliance is the current mayor of the village, Kishiro Kimiyoshi. Ooishi, upon hearing that, let out a small chuckle. For him to ask like that, and to laugh at the answer as it was recorded in the documents, meant that wasn't the case in reality.
では、君吉氏以外の影の人物がいるということですね。
So then, that means there's somebody else other than Kimiyoshi behind the scenes?
県警の持つ、いや、一般的な情報とは異なり。
Contrary to what the prefectural office thinks, or rather, what is commonly known.
君吉のじいさんなんてただのお飾りですよ。
Old man Kimiyoshi is nothing more than a figurehead.
そもそもこの村じゃ村長なんてポスト自体も形式だけなんです。
In the first place, the post of mayor in that village is nothing more than ceremonial.
つまり、同盟も村も 本当の意味で支配している別の存在がいるということですね。
In other words, there's someone else in charge of both the Alliance and the village?
それが先ほどおっしゃられていた御三家という存在ですか？
Would that be the three families we just talked about?
まあそのあたりはこれからご説明します。
Well, I'll explain that part right now. All of a sudden, with a thunk, the car suddenly lurched. Oh, I thought he like ran into the back of another car. The paved road had given way to a gravel one. At the same time, the scenery outside the window changed. The Hinamizawa Dam project must be withdrawn. Overthrow the shameless puppet of a governor. The dam will submerge the natural beauty of Hinamizawa. Protect the village from the unethical dam. Fear the wrath of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Demolish the dam. Those involved must go away. Construction office must respond. Construction office manager must negotiate with us. Signs and banners crowded the roadside. Even reading the brush-scrawled words was daunting. It was as though where the road just changed was a border with a different country. At that moment, I was startled by the car suddenly braking. Looking ahead, a barricade had been erected. About 5 or 6 protesters, wearing masks and helmets tied their faces, were blocking the road, yelling at us angrily to stop.
これは何ですか?
What is this?
検問?
A checkpoint?
はあ?
Hmm?
懲りない連中だな。
These guys never learn. Ooishi snorted as he rolled down the window and leaned out.
おいおいおい。あんたらダメだよ、こんなとこで道を塞いじゃ。
Hey, 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 you guys, you can't be blocking the road like this here. As Ooishi glared at them with a malicious laugh, they visibly faltered.
道開けてくださいな。
Clear the way.
それじゃ通れないでしょ。
We can't get by like this. No. Who would have thought it was Oishi's car? The panic thoughts seemed to make them lose their presence of mind.
大石刑事の車と分かってればこんなご無礼はしなかったんですがね。
Ah, if we had known it was your car, Detective Ooishi, we wouldn't have been so rude.
大石刑事、いつもの車はどうされました?
Detective, what happened to your usual car?
車検ですか?
Is it in for maintenance?
そんなところです。
Something like that.
台車ってのはどうにも馴染みませんね。
I just can't get used to this car they loaned me. Judging from the brief conversation, I could guess that they were familiar with the license plate of the car Ooishi normally used. In other words, if they knew the car belonged to the police, they would have hidden the barricade. What they were doing was obviously obstruction of traffic, a blatant crime.
そっちの怪しい男は誰です?
Who's that suspicious guy?
あんた、顔を見せてくれませんか?
You, could you show us your face? The man glared, excuse me, at me menacingly. Wearing a mask and sunglasses made me look particularly dubious. Would not showing my face get me into some unnecessary trouble? I turned to Ooishi to see what I should do.
彼の顔は勘弁してあげてください。
Give him a break.
まだまだ新米でシャイなんですからね。
He's still a shy little rookie.
不審な輩じゃないか確認しようってだけです。
We just wanted to make sure he wasn't in any way suspicious.
最近のひなみさんは物騒ですからね。
Nalma's always been a bit of a stir as of late. No!
あんたのうち鏡歪んでるのと違います。
Have you looked at yourself in the mirror?
あんたのその面の方がよっぽど不審ですよ。
That mask you're wearing is way more suspicious. The men in Ooishi continued to talk like that, feigning smiles at one another. However, from the beginning to the end, I couldn't get over the feeling I was sitting on a powder keg.
ゴミの不法投棄車両まだ減らないんですか?
Has the number of trucks illegally dumping still not decreased?
オタクたちも本当に朝晩大変ですね。
It's a real hassle dealing with it all the time.
警察の方にもご理解とご協力をいただけて助かりますよ。
If the police could understand and cooperate, it would really help. During that conversation, the barricade was moved, leaving a gap wide enough for a single car to get through. Ooishi lightly honked the horn once and began to roll the car forward. You could see the men's antagonistic glares at the back of the car in the rearview mirror. Hate each other.
何ですかさっきのは。
What was that just now?
勝手に行動を封殺するなんて。
Blocking a public road like that?
もちろん犯罪ですよ。
Of course it's a crime.
目くじら立てても始まりませんがね。
Still, if you get worked up over that, it'll never end.
連中の主張じゃですね、村内に不法投棄をするトラックが出没するって言うんです。
Those guys, see, claim there's an infestation of trucks illegally dumping in the village.
それを封じ込めるために不審車両を検問してるって話だそうで。
The story goes that in order to stop that, they're halting suspicious vehicles for inspection.
不法投棄
Illegal dumping?
参拝を勝手に捨てようとする悪徳業者のことですか？
Like corrupt contractors just tossing industrial waste away?
警察が何の手も打たないから自分たちで自衛するっていう論法でしてね。
Their line of argument is that if the police aren't going to do anything about it, they'll take matters into their own hands.
まあ参拝なんて話はどうせ自演だからどうでもいいんですがね。
Well, the industrial waste is just something they're doing by themselves anyway.
自演
By themselves?
連中うまい作戦なんですよ。
They have a pretty good strategy.
ダム現場にですね、工事妨害のために参拝ゴミを自分たちでばらまいてるんです。
You see, in order to hinder construction, they spread industrial waste over by the dam site.
で、それを悪徳業者のせいってことにして臨検を設置すると。
Then, blaming it on corrupt contractors, they start instituting these inspections.
それで工事車両をいちいち足止めしてチクチクと妨害してるってわけなんです。
There, they stop every construction vehicle coming through and interfere with them as much as possible.
鬼ヶ淵主導名の抵抗運動の一つというわけですね。
So then, it's one of the methods that Onikafuchi Guardians is using.
多分今の検問でこの車のナンバーが割れましたからね。
With that inspection just now, this car's license plate has probably been recorded.
もうこの先には一切検問の真似事はないと思います。
It shouldn't get stopped from here on out.
連中も私を怒らせると得をしないことだけはよく骨身に染みているようですからね。
Those guys know very well not to get me angry.
この車が工事関係車両だと知れるとですね。
See, rumor is that they figure a car is related to construction in some way.
散々検問で足止めを食らうばかりか、投石や鉄釘のばらまきなんかも食らうって噂です。
Not only would there be checkpoints stopping at every turn, but they'd be throwing rocks and planting road spikes as well.
あなたも身元が割れないようにせいぜい気をつけた方がいいですよ。
It's best you be careful so you're not identified.
公安なんてバレたらどんな目に遭うやら。
If they find out you're from public safety, who knows what you'll suffer through. Ooishi was acting like we were talking about something fun, but for me, it was no laughing matter.
なるでどこぞの内戦の国に迷い込んだような錯覚です。
It almost feels like we've wandered into a civil war in the Middle East. No! It's so funny.
あんた、そりゃうまい言い方です。
That's a good way of putting it.
今言われたのはまさにその通り。
It's pretty much It's pretty much just what you said. Ooishi turned to me with a grin and menacing laugh.
ここはね、戦争地帯なんですよ。
You see, this here's a war zone. The car slowed down a bit as it went down a narrow road through some farmland.
あそこの森の中に家があるのが見えます？
You see that house in the forest over there?
古い感じの。
That antiquated one? Looking at where she was pointing, there certainly was an old, traditionally designed house.
あれが村長の君吉のじいさんの家です。
That belongs to the mayor, old man Kimiyoshi.
君吉本家とも言いますな。
You could say it belongs to the main Kimiyoshi house as well.
分家筋が多いですから。
There's a lot of branches, but
御三家の一つにあたります。
they'd be one of the three families.
御三家
The three families.
ひなみ沢村を支配している旧家ですね。
The ancient families that control Hinamizawa?
そうそ
That's right.
う。で、もう一つが古出家。
And one of the others is the Furude family.
こっちは分家どころか、もう神主一家しか残ってませんがね。
Their house doesn't even have a single branch, as all that's left is the head priest's family.
ちょうどあっちの方にね、神社がありまして。
Right over there. There's a shrine.
そこの神主をしています。
He's the priest there.
ちなみにね、死守同盟の事務所はその神社の敷地内にあります。
By the way, the Guardian's office is on the grounds of that shrine. The office of the Onigafuchi Guardians. If these guys were the enemy, that would make the shrine their stronghold.
そこを見ることはできますか？
Can we go look over there?
神社は古出家の私有地でね。
The shrine is the Furude family's private property, you see.
警察といえど、令状がないと踏み込めません。
Being police, we can't set foot there without a warrant.
電柱のバックには村の息のかかった議員もいますからね。
See? We've got a member of the Diet with ties to the village backing them up.
警察にも強いところと弱いところがあるってことです。
Basically, being the police has its strengths and weaknesses.
御三家とは言ってもですね。
Well, even when we talk about the three families,
そりゃあだいぶ大昔のことなんだそうです。
that's something from a long time ago.
大昔はその御三家ってのは合議して村のいろいろなことを決めてたらしいですな。
Way back when, those three families used to hold councils to decide things about the village.
ということは、今は違うということですね。
Meaning, it's different now?
あんた、いちいち察しがいいですね。
You've got a pretty good nose.
さすが高学歴。
That's what I expect from an academic. No. Car braked to a halt with a squeal. Braked? Braked? Broke? I don't know. Ahead of where we were stopped were several signs. Private property beyond, no trespassing. Beware of poisonous snakes. Danger, turn back. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. Signs were erected there with things like that written on them. The road was separated from the forest by a chain-link fence wrapped in barbed wire.
私有地なんで、ここまでです。
Since this is private property, this is as far as we go.
この先は監視カメラがいくつも仕掛けられてます。
There's several surveillance cameras set up further in.
うっかり道に迷いました。なんて論法が通じる相手じゃありませんからね。
Saying that we just got lost won't work with these guys.
この先がそうなんですね。
They're beyond here, right? The people currently controlling Inamazawa and the Onigafuchi Guardians were neither the Kimiyoshi family nor the Furude family, but the last of the three. Yeah.
この先にあるのが御三家の一つ、園崎家。
Beyond here is one of the three families, the Sonozaki family.
ひなみざ村を影から支配する連中です。
They're the ones controlling Inamazawa from the shadows. Among the list of executives recorded in the documents, the number of people with last names from the three families was quite high. Of course, Sonozaki was no exception. However, the top was the Kimiyoshi family. If the Kimiyoshi family seemed to be in charge, the rulers behind the scenes were the Sonozaki family. This double-layered structure implicitly told me that this village had both a light and a dark side.
園崎家の頂点は現当主の園崎お涼っていうばあさんです。
The current head of the Sonozaki family is an old lady named Oryo.
園崎天皇なんて呼ばれるくらいにその発言には影響力があるそうです。
She has enough clout that you could call her Empress Sonozaki.
気をつけてくださいよ。
Be careful.
大物です。
Be careful. She's no small fry.
市長だって最敬礼でお迎えするような VIP ですからね。
She's enough of a VIP that even the mayor of the city has to bow before her.
まあ、ひなみ沢と周辺の町に住む村の親族の数千の評伝を固めてるわけですから、政治家は頭上がらないんでしょうが。
Well, in Amazawa and the surrounding area, their relatives, well, in Inamazawa and the surrounding area, their relatives amount to a block of several thousand votes. No politician could show disrespect for that.
つまり、その人物が 鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の事実上のトップということですね。
In other words, that would make her the actual leader of the Onigafuchi Guardians, right?
そうなります。
You've got it. With those words, Ooishi pulled out a well-worn cigarette box. The suspected kidnapping of the minister's grandchild and subsequent threats. Were these parts of the hidden plot by the Onigafuchi Guardians in order to have the Hinamazawa Dam project cancelled?
あなた、東京からはるばる調べにいらしたんですよね。
You came all the way from Tokyo to investigate this, didn't you? Huh?
ええ。
Yeah.
そうですか。
That's right.
何か
Something the matter?
じゃあほら、あれだ。
Then.
犬飼大臣への直訴事件の絡みですかな。
Is it related to that direct appeal incident with Minister Inukai?
要するに、あれで要注意団体ってことで公安がマークすることになったと。
If that's the case, then public safety has them marked on a watch list.
そういう感じですか。
Something like that?
大石さんこそお察しが早くて助かります。
Having you guess that so quickly makes this easy. While exhaling out cigarette smoke, Ooishi smiled broadly, like I just pulled a good one on him. Or so I thought. His smile disappeared suddenly.
嘘でしょ。
That's a lie, isn't it? Huh?
だから直訴事件でマークがついたっての。
I mean, the direct appeal putting them on a watch list.
嘘でしょ。
That's a lie, isn't it? Ooishi knew there was no way that Tokyo headquarters, or HQ, would dispatch an investigator over something as minor as a direct appeal. If they were to dispatch someone, it had to be for a far more dire reason. He had figured out as much. I thought of myself as the type of person who doesn't let things show on their face. In front of his watchful gaze, however, I felt that what I was thinking was completely laid bare. Ooishi silently lit another cigarette, as if waiting for me to interject during this awkward pause. I see. So this was a veteran detective's way of getting someone to spill information. But as long as I realized this, there'd be nothing more. If I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have to lose anything. All I had to do was stare out the window and enjoy the scenery until Ooishi gave up.
あなたって人は本当に隠し事が下手な人ですね。
You really are bad at hiding things, you know?
そういう素直で初々しいの悪くないな。
Being so young and earnest isn't so bad. Ooishi smirked as he twisted out his third cigarette, while I tried not to let him notice that I had yielded completely. At first I thought I had won, but at the very least Ooishi had ascertained that I was hiding something. Meaning that I might have ended up marching to his tune. Ooishi started up the engine once again, began to move the car.
素直なところを教えてくれりゃ、もっとお力になれると思ったんですがね。
If you'd just been honest with me, I thought I might have been able to help you.
素直に話したら
How would you help?
どう力になれるんです。
Oh, I cut him off there, I think. Did I get it all?
素直に話したらどう力になれるんです。
If the cat was out of the bag, I might as well use it to catch some mice.
内容によりけりですがね。ひなみ沢界隈に詳しい情報屋に引き合わせてあげてもいいですよ。
Well, this depends on what we're talking about, but I might be able to set you up with someone who's knowledgeable about the goings-on in Hinamazawa.
協力員ですか。
An informant?
そっか。あんたらはそう呼ぶんでしたね。
I see. Is that what you call it?
どうして私の任務に興味を。
Why are you interested in my case?
大石さん。
Ooishi-san?
そりゃあんたと同じです。
Well, I'm the same as you.
常に知るのが私たちの仕事じゃありませんか。
Isn't it our business to know things? Being able to meet with Ooishi's informant was an extremely compelling opportunity. We were looking to recruit somebody familiar with the area to collaborate with for intelligence. In the end, there was no better method of finding people than asking. We were always taught, however, that the rank-and-file police were no better than monkeys. Unlike us, they were careless with confidential cases. We looked down on them like they'd run their mouth off in a drunken stupor. Ooishi was an outlaw even amongst them, and here I was lost on whether or not I should tell him about the kidnapping of the minister's grandson.
その情報協力員はどの程度鬼ヶ淵自主同盟に精通を
This informant, exactly how knowledgeable are they about the Onigafuchi Guardians?
あんたも公安の人間ならわかるでしょう。
If you're from public safety, you'd know, wouldn't you?
そんなの私の口からたとえあなたにだって話せるわけないじゃありませんか。
Something like that is something I can't just tell you. Protect your sources. That was the first principle of dealing with confidential information. In that regard, it seemed that Ooishi wasn't one of those monkeys. Should I trust him, ask for his help, or not?
あなたは国。私は県に雇われてますがね。
It's just that you work for the feds, and I work for the prefecture.
私たちの職務はそう大きくは違わないと思っています。
I don't think that our jobs are that different.
力になれると思うんですがね。
I think I can be of help. However, I had trouble believing that this crafty old man would simply help me just like he claimed. Now, how should I go about this?
大石さんほどの方が無償で力になってくださるとはちょっと思いがたいですが
I find it hard to believe that someone of your standing would help me out without strings attached. No.
そりゃ下心がないわけじゃないです。
Well, it's not like I'm completely without an ulterior motive. This is music. Got some horns.
あんたら確か協力員に支払える謝礼用の予算を持ってますよね。
As I recall, you guys have space in your budget allocated to pay informants, right?
領収書不要な予算を。
Something you don't need to submit a receipt for.
そいつでですね、情報屋との接触にかかるコストをちょいと。
Just a little bit of that would be the cost of meeting with the informant.
つまり情報屋と渡りをつける謝礼をあなたにお支払いしろということですね
In other words, give the compensation earmarked for the informant to you first?
取引内容が
Damn,
明快で
Ooishi.
助かります
I was unfamiliar with your game. Well, it helps that the details of this deal are so clear-cut. He certainly was something else for being able to brazenly state his ulterior motive like this. Rather than him doing this out of the kindness of his heart, everything was a lot clearer if he was being compensated for this deal. I felt that he was the type of man who was good at these backroom dealings.
誤解しないでくださいよ。
Don't misunderstand me, please.
お金が必要なのは私にじゃなくて情報屋になんですからね。
It's not me who needs the money. It's the informant, okay?
まあ支払いの関係上、お金は私が預かりますがね。
Well, in regards to the payment, I'll be handling the money.
支払いはいつ
When do you want it?
今すぐがいいですね。
Right now would be good.
ないなら明日でもいいんですよ。
If you don't have it on you, tomorrow works as well. I pulled out a wallet that was different from my personal one. The price was pretty much fixed depending on what kind of information I was paying for. In this case, the payment was up front. Also considering the fact I didn't know what kind of info I would get, I shouldn't pay too much. When I suggested that, Ooishi suddenly stretched out his hand and tightly grasped the contents of the wallet. Get the fuck off my wallet, man! Jesus. I would slap Ooishi 2 times across the face. You don't touch another man's wallet like that. Fucking strange ass man. I'm getting like unnecessarily like mad at him. Don't you dare touch my wallet.
こういう時はですね、ケチケチしない方がいいんです。
At times like this, it's best you not be so stingy.
大丈夫、大丈夫。損はさせませんから。
It's alright, it's alright, it won't go to waste.
わかりました
I understand.
ケチケチしないことにします
I won't be stingy.
で、
And?
調べたい情報は何です？
What kind of information are you looking for?
内容によって多少アプローチが変わることもありますので。
Depending on what you want, how we approach this will probably change.
他言無用を誓ってもらえますか
You swear that you won't spread this information to anybody else?
大石さん
Ooishi-san?
誓うまでもありませんよ。
I can't swear as much.
私もあなたたちと同じ。
I'm the same as you.
職務上知り得たことは他言できませんからね。
I Can't withhold information obtained during the course of my duties. I got it. I got it, I swear.
ここで聞くことは他言無用です。
Nothing here gets said anywhere else.
それに、あなたのおかげで溜まってたツケを全部返せるんですからね。
On top of that, thanks to you, I can pay back what I owe for my mahjong debts.
私は少なくとも金の絡んだ約束は絶対に違いませんよ。
In any case, I won't break a promise that involves money. I still wasn't sure if I should trust him until the very last moment, but in the end, I broke down. Ooishi wasn't the type of guy I could trust 100%, but there was no mistaking he had access to underground information networks. In order to accomplish my mission swiftly, I needed his cooperation. I set my resolve.
鬼ヶ淵主導名がある事件に関与しているか否かを調査しています。
I'm investigating whether or not the Onigafuchi Guardians is related to a certain incident.
ある事件?
Certain incident?
犬飼建設大臣が何者かに脅迫を受けている可能性があります。
There's a possibility that the Minister of Construction, Inukai, is being coerced by someone.
可能性とはまた遠回しな言い方ですね。
Saying there's a possibility is kind of a roundabout way of putting it.
大臣の近辺に内通者がいるらしいのです。
It appears there's a mole close to the minister.
その内通者によって高度に監視されているらしく、
And due
大
to
臣は脅迫初期から屈服している様子です。
that mole, the minister had been monitored quite thoroughly and was seemingly forced to cede to their threats right away.
警察へも我々へも一切通報していません。
None of this was reported to us or the police.
なるほど。
I see.
だから脅迫を受けている可能性という言い方になると。
So that's why you're saying there's only a possibility he's being coerced.
だとすると妙ですね。
In that case, isn't it a little strange?
大臣が誰にも通報しないなら、どうしてあんたらは事件を知ったんです？
If the minister didn't report this to anybody, how'd you guys know about this incident? If we didn't spy on the minister's private life, we would have never found out.
その説明は私が情報屋に提供する必要がないと思われるので割愛します。
I don't think we have to provide that explanation to the informant, so I'm omitting it. Ooishi had apparently caught on, quietly chuckled when I refused to explain.
なるほど。
I see.
大臣の近辺にスパイがいるらしいから、公安だけの極秘調査ということになったわけですか。
There's a spy close to the minister, so public safety made it a highly classified investigation.
そりゃ確かに穏便な話じゃないですね。
That certainly isn't a very amicable story, is it?
ことを公にすれば、大臣の政治生命も含め、政変に発展する可能性は極めて高いでしょう。
If this matter became public, not only would this affect the minister's political career, but the possibility of there being a shift in the political landscape is extremely high.
犯人グループの目的がそこにあるならば、有識事態に発展する可能性があります。
If the perpetrator's aim is indeed that, then this could develop into a very grave situation.
政府の列島改造は、まあいろいろ方々との衝突も多いらしいですからね。
Well, with the government having development projects all over the country, they've butted heads with quite a few people.
どんなささやかなケチでも一つつけば、野党勢力がどっと票を伸ばす可能性もあると。
It wouldn't take much wrongdoing for the left-wing parties to suddenly garner more support.
大臣がどのような要求を受けているのかは現在調査中です。
We're currently investigating what demands are being forced on the minister.
ですが、脅迫の方法だけはほぼ分かっています。
But at least we have a good idea of how we're being threatened. He's being threatened.
なんです？
How?
大臣の孫の誘拐です。
The minister's grandson was kidnapped.
周辺は否定していますが、最後の目撃から見て、すでに誘拐後72時間が経過していると思われます。
They're denying it, but judging from when he was last seen, it's believed it's already been over 72 hours since kidnapping.
3日ですか。
So, 3 days.
波の身代金目的ならもう決着してますね。
If they were just after ransom money, this would have been settled by now.
金銭でなく、大臣に何らかの政治的なアクションを要求している可能性が極めて高いでしょう。
It may be that this isn't for monetary gain. Possibility that they're forcing the minister to do something politically is extremely high.
それを我々は 黙認するわけにはいきません。
That's something we just can't consent to.
で、それの犯人グループとの可能性として鬼ヶ淵死守同盟がリストに上がったわけですね。
So then, the Onigafuchi Guardians was listed as one of the possible perpetrators.
そうです。
That's correct.
大臣の孫を誘拐してダム計画の撤回を求めるか。
Kidnap the minister's grandson and demand the cancellation of the dam project.
どうでしょう、大石さん。
What do you think, Ooishi-san?
その可能性はあなたから見てあり得ると思いますか？
From your point of view, do you think that's possible? Ooishi seemed to ponder the idea for a while. The section chief at the regional office had responded immediately with, "It's possible." However, Ooishi, who was this well informed about the matter, was hemming and hawing. Finally, just a little bit. He said something that was really just a little bit strange. Oh, now he's strange? Okay.
明治前まではですね。
This was before the Meiji area, you see.
この辺りはひなみ沢村って名前じゃなくて鬼ヶ淵村って呼ばれてたそうです。
This area wasn't named Hinamizawa Village back then. It was called Onigafuchi.
うちのばあ様の受け売りですがね。
This is just what I heard from my mother. This topic was so completely and suddenly unrelated to the subject of the kidnapping of the minister's grandson that I was taken slightly aback.
鬼ヶ淵村。
Onigafuchi?
それで鬼ヶ淵死守同盟という名称になったわけですね。
Oh, so that's why they're called the Onigafuchi Guardians.
鬼ヶ淵村ってのはですね、人食い鬼の住む村だと言われてたんだそうです。
You see, the village of Onigafuchi was said to be inhabited by demons that devoured humans.
今でも村人は自分の体に鬼の血が半分流れてると信じてます。
Even now, it's believed that the blood of these demons partially courses through the veins of the villagers.
人食い鬼。
Demons that devour humans?
大石さん、それ何の話ですか？
Ooishi-san, what are you saying?
情報ですよ、情報。
It's information.
さっきあなたからたくさんもらっちゃいましたからね。
I got a lot from you just now.
少しもらいすぎました。
I got a little too much.
その分サービスしてあげてるんですよ。
In exchange, I'm giving you a little freebie. Ooishi finally smiled, but it didn't seem like he was fooling around.
先を続けてください。
Please continue.
人食い鬼たちはですね、
You see, these human-devouring demons,
普段は仙人と崇められてひっそりと暮らしているんですがね。
normally they were revered as Taoist transcendents and lived tucked away from the rest of the world.
やっぱり人食いですから定期的に麓の村に降りてきては獲物をさらっていったんだそうです。
But they ate people, after all, so apparently they'd go to villages in the foothills regularly and abduct their prey.
それをですね、鬼隠しと言いまして、
They used to call that being demoned away, or onikakushi. Demoned away. It was the first time I had heard such a peculiar phrase. However, I felt something slightly ominous from this horrifying tale of demons abducting people in order to eat them.
ほら、よく世間一般に神隠しっていうのがあるじゃないですか。
Look, you know how there's this common phrase, spirited away?
人がある日突然失踪してしまうとそう言うでしょ。
When people suddenly go missing one day, they call it that.
この辺りでは同じことがあると鬼隠しって呼ぶんです。
When the same thing happens around here, they call it being demoned away.
その昔話と本件に何か関係が？
How does that old tale relate to the matter at hand?
いえいえ。
Oh, no.
直接的には何の関係もない。ただのおしゃべりですがね。
There's no direct relationship, I'm just making some small talk here.
ただ、
It's just... Ka-thump, ka-thump. The car shook. At some point, the gravel road had changed to a paved one.
ただ、何です？
It's just what?
この土地に鬼隠しという名の失踪、誘拐を暗示するキーワードがある。ということだけはお話ししておこうと思いまして。
that around here the phrase demoned away is somewhat of a code for disappearances and kidnappings. I just thought I'd mention that.
今回の大臣の孫の誘拐と関係あるかは分かりませんがね。
I don't know if this has anything to do with the kidnapping of the minister's grandson.
まあ、深い話ではないんです。
Well, there's no deep meaning behind it.
そんな言われの話があるということだけでもね。
It's just, there's that little bit of history. Onikakushi. Human-eating demons coming down to the foothills and abducting their prey. Then, in order to cancel a dam project that threatened to submerge the village they lived in, did they demon away the minister's grandson? Then, had they already made an example out of the minister's grandson and eaten him alive?
ちょっと興味深い昔話ですね。
It's a bit of an interesting old tale, isn't it?
鬼たちの村にみだりに踏み入れば、たちまち囚われ食い殺される。
If you set foot in the demon's village without reason, you'll promptly be captured and eaten alive.
だから鬼ヶ淵村には近づくんだ。
So don't go near Onigifuchi.
今時の若者はこんな迷信信じませんがね。
Kids these days might not believe such superstitions.
沖宮の明治生まれの年寄り連中には今でも真面目に信じてるのが多いですよ。
But amongst the older folk in Okinomiya, born in the Meiji area, many would never question these warnings. Namazawa village was feared by the people in the area. I recalled that piece of information I heard from the Prefectural Public Safety Division.
何しろこの辺は田舎ですからね。
In any case, we're in the boonies out here.
迷信なんかが平気で幅を利かせてるんです。
It's kind of expected that there'd be some superstitions around.
東京から来られた赤坂さんにはちょっと想像もつかないでしょうがね。
Somebody from Tokyo like you, Akatsuka-san, probably couldn't even begin to imagine it, could you? The man-eating demons, as a price for violating the sanctity of their village, kidnapped the minister's grandson and swallowed him whole. That ludicrous idea flew through my head. It was so absurd, I was half disgusted with myself. Ooishi was just teasing me. Stupid. It was all really so stupid. Come to think of it, by then, I may have already been seized by the curse of that dubious village. For me to realize that would take a little more time. Ah. Ooh, ominous. Is that ominous? Oh, it's ominous ending there. Da-na-na-na. Oh, we got 4 tips. The achievement picture there that that popped up, I think was like a, you guys didn't get to see it, but I'm making a motion of the box here. Was the little thumbnail for the achievement, I think was a picture of what I guess the character we're playing as here in his hat and sunglasses. It just looked kind of doofy. Is this a short-ish stream or a longish stream? That's a good question. I think we're probably going to just read the tips here and then call it a night, if that answers the question. I think I'm too tired to want to go through potentially another section, basically. Apologies if this feels too short. You know, it's the things of Friday stream, you know? Friday stream, brain tired, little sleep. It's not until, you know, Friday going into Saturday where I get that. Oh, it's a phone call with the wife, with the pregnant Yuki. Oh, really? It's tough when it's such a sudden assignment. Please be careful. Where are you headed? You're already there? Wait, what is this? 1 chapter of Higurashi in a week and a half. I see. Wait, what? Wait, is it you? I can't. Are you like? I can't believe I'm getting. Can't believe I'm getting blasted. I can't believe the audacity even. I don't know what to say. I don't even know what to say in response. Man. Unrespected. Treated like shit. Chat treating me like shit. Just it's fine. I'll just cry myself to sleep tonight. I hope you're happy. All right, let's continue this phone call. Whenever I headed out on assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yuki, but anybody would have asked the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. If it was far, she'd warn me to be careful on the drive over. It was just normal everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. I felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question. Sorry. It's something that you can't talk about, isn't it? Please be careful.
Yuki.
Sorry, Yuki. At some point, you start... At some point, you start apologizing right away. Even though when you first started your job, you're all gung-ho about it. Yuki laughed as though she had realized something. At times like this, Yuki had the magical power to see right through me. It's already been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital. Are you finally getting lonely? Don't tease me. I'm too old to get lonely. There seems like to be some weird disconnect between the actual what's actually being said and then what I'm reading here. Whatever. Hee. Oh, really? Oh, it's probably because it's extending. It's all fucked up. Alright, whatever. You actually like to be doted on, don't you? Don't you start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around? Ah, jeez. Ah, jeez. I can see the little devil horn spreading from your head right now. You've always been like this. You can't hide it. You can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you get all lonely. I can hear your tail wagging over the phone. The side of Yuki wasn't something you could guess existed from seeing her usual modest behavior, and it was something that she didn't show to anybody else but me. Normally I'd poke her to hide my embarrassment and bring an end to the conversation, but I couldn't do that over the phone. Of course, Yuki was clever. She was teasing me because of that. I wonder when I figured out that giving you grief was this much fun. Give me a break. In any case, it's good to hear you so lively. I know, right? Did I cheer you up? I'd called Yuki to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, that was nothing more than a pretense that I, being shy, had come up with. It seemed that Yuki had long since seen through that act. Yeah. Please phone again. When I'm not feeling up to it, I'll get my father to talk with you. Although, if you're talking with my father, I get the feeling that you'd be standing at attention on the other side of the line. For a while longer, Yuki kept teasing me without letting me end the call. Okay. A record of opening remarks. What are these? Chick at the trunk? The hell does that mean? This is ominous. Chairman, XX. Members of the XX Party. Congratulations are due as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have seen much growth in XX Prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train. And with the development of the highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bursting with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new businesses and industry. And with the special reverence of the residents of XX Prefecture have for time-honored traditions, history and culture, business and industry. These ideals in harmony, they have accomplished in growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. I almost wanted to say monstropolis. Ooh. Of course, the development of Prefecture couldn't have happened without the growth of the party. We are resolved to see every one of our campaign promises to fruition, reaching our targets definitively and expediently like arrows fired from a bow. With these arrows as a fundamental basis of the XX Party, our members have sought to pierce the obstructions preventing the happiness of the residents of Redacted Prefecture. But I do believe that everybody here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being as unfaltering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking solutions that conform to the current day and age, while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow, once loosed, can only fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow. Even once loosed from the bow without neglecting our studies, while employing new methods, and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, thus being able to change trajectories mid-flight, we are magical arrows! The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than the time taken from planning to execution. The following part was not in the script. It is thought to have been ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have recently been numerous problems with the Hinamizawa power plant project. Rather than forcing through the project solely because it was decided upon by the government, it is necessary to reflect on and adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents, the region, and the next generation. The protests by the local residents that surround the Hinamizawa Dam, these are also the will of the people of XX Prefecture. If you feel that there is no need to listen because the projects have already been finalized, you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following is as per the script. For the lasting happiness of the citizens of Japan and the residents of XX Prefecture was consider these policies thoroughly. I believe, however, we have all gained something from the flexibility and foresight of the XX Party. Taking up much of your time, however, allow me to say the following to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our founding. Chairman XX, members of the XX Party in attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of the XX Party Prefectural Forum and 25th anniversary celebration. Gears and fire and the taste of honey. Okay. The world is filled with people blessed with relationships. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone is connected to each other. It's obvious that on the other side of the planet there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that a single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside of a small community. If you were to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having a steak or croquettes doesn't matter to me. When I put on my shoes, it doesn't matter to anybody whether I put the right one on first or the left. This much the average person can understand. But actually, in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, say that person A's actions have some effect on me. Even then, person B's actions could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse also holds true. Just because my actions affect person A, that doesn't always mean that they affect person B as well. Let's put it bluntly. If the bonds between people are like gears in a machine, the gear that represents me meshes with some people, but is isolated from others. There are some who would try arguing against this. Those people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear indeed only directly meshes with one or two others. However, if you rotate one gear, The one next to it is moved, which connects to the next one, and the next. In the end, all the gears are moving. There is a logic behind this, more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationships between people are ambiguous, can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, so it throws a wet blanket on that argument. So for the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of a clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, there isn't only one clock. There exist many clocks in this world, each counting their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships, then you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so it doesn't really matter to me at all. That's the kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being fallacious? Full of fallacy? Then let's change the analogy to something more familiar, so you can understand. You've probably heard the phrase, a fire on the opposite shore, sometime in your life, no? For example, if your neighbor's house is on fire, you'd probably try and help to put it out, wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your own house, after all. But what if that fire was in a town on the opposite side of a river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? Even though it would be the wrong thing to do, there's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned into a huge conflagration. There's no relation between the houses that will spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are and aren't related to your own. Having said that, still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. After all, it's not a spatial problem like that being on the other side of the river, is it? I find it very funny if, like, all of a sudden it's talking about all the gears and everything, and then just the final line is like, oh yeah, and honey. Like they forgot to drop the thing. No, they didn't even talk. They didn't even say the taste of honey. Oh man. Just a tad bit of philosophizing. All right, the chick in the trunk. I have no idea. Why is this? Is it an actual chick? Is it a lady? Is it a baby chicken? Is there a baby chicken in the trunk? The car had stopped, but he didn't know any more than that. For not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of the car. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't have known this without experiencing it firsthand. Oh, I assume, okay. He soon realized it was pointless to try and undo his bonds, with the confines of the truck quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his senses. That's why, when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibration ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from that delusion. He strained his ears when he had heard one of the men who had abducted him, an older man he was hearing for the first time, strike up a conversation. Ah, nice to see you. The chick is in the trunk. He struggled so much that he's probably exhausted right now. There's not a mark on him, just as ordered. Oh, must have been a handful. The trunk opened, letting in a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until now had just been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it was actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. I have a question. Maybe this is a really dumb question. Maybe this is a dumb question from someone. I'm about to say something, and maybe I'm just not thinking it through necessarily. Do you think, assuming you're not actually being kidnapped, do you think it'd actually be fun to ride in the trunk of a car? Or would it be like massively uncomfortable and scary? I don't know. Like, I can't, as someone who has not been in a car and like put into a trunk, I don't know what like the experience would be. And I can't tell if, like, obviously it's scary if you're being kidnapped and you're blindfolded, because then, yeah, that's bad. But I'm saying, apart from that, if you were just like, I'm going to, you know, if I just want to ride in the trunk of a car, like, would the experience be all right? I mean, would it hurt? Is it like, I don't know. You're not like, assuming you're driving on like neat paved roads, it's not like it's going to be like super bumpy, right? I mean, depending on how crazy the driver is, right? If they're making sudden stops, maybe if you're like loose in the back and you're just like, you're rumbling in there and then your like body would like hit like, imagine like you're like some groceries in the back of a car and you're just like, your body slams if they like suddenly break. But like, other than that, I think it would be kind of fine. It wasn't fun. Got kind of car sick. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I want to say I kind of want to like experience it, but again, it's like one of those, it's two things. One of those things, by me saying that, it kind of sounds like I'm saying like, you know, there's like those weird like thing like experiences, that's what I'm looking for. Experiences where you can pay to essentially have like a friend or yourself get like kidnapped at a random point in whatever. Really fucking weird. So that reminds me of that when I'm thinking about riding willingly in the back of the trunk. And then also oh, there was another thing, but now I forgot it. Damn, I had another second good point. So now riding in the trunk. Something. Ah, fuck. I had a second point. Oh well. I lost it. It was the better of the 2 points too. And I said the dumb one first and then forgot the second one. Anyway. Anyway, even though up until now, just now, that's the other thing I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make. Me being like, oh, you know, maybe riding in the back of the trunk isn't that bad. It's almost close to those people. It just sounds close to, because maybe I'm overlooking something, maybe it'd be really bad. It sounds like those people that are like, oh yeah, waterboarding isn't that bad. You could probably get waterboard. I could be waterboarded and it would be no problem. And then the second you do it to them, they're like, oh god, I regret everything. That's what I fear. When I say like, oh, I would totally ride in the back of a trunk, the moment I start doing it and it's like an unpleasant experience, and then I'm immediately proven wrong, I would be like, oh, fuck. I really didn't think this through. So that's what I'd be fearful of if I actually committed that. Anyway, back to the story. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. Even though up until just now he had been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it was actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Do you think there are people that, similar to like my opening stream, like remarks and like recaps stream, like moments and stuff, and then I'll like, do you think there are people that also just don't watch like the tips section? Because then they're missing a great thing about me asking, you know, the good questions. They're missing parts about me waterboarding myself or whatever, you know? Is this the grandson? I'm pretty sure would be the grandson. Unless we're being obfuscated the truth here. I would assume this is the update on the grandson being kidnapped. Even though up until just now he had been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it was actually open, he suddenly became uneasy. Enough so that he wished that the lid of the trunk would once again close, separating himself from them. Unlikely that someone skips these parts. That's fair. Probably less likely. Again, I always find it very funny. People that skip the starter streams, they're missing the best parts. Sorta. Maybe me saying they're the best parts is kind of overblowing it, but... Suddenly, somebody stroked his head. Ew, don't stroke my head. Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if it was a hand was petting him or simply evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. Ugh. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario. Poor little bugger. He's shaking. Just stay calm for a bit. The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head.
恩目のおじいちゃんは優しい人だね。
You're right. You make a compelling point. Every minute of my stream is 100% dialed up to be the best parts of these streams. You can't miss a single waking moment of my streams, or else you'll miss everything. And I pity the fools that miss anything in my streams, even the BRBs. You never know what might happen. No, the BRBs. I was going to say only the stuff that counts is stuff that's actually saved, then that goes onto YouTube. But that's not true, because sometimes some things get cut at the top of streams, especially like right at the top. Maybe that stuff is worth it. Usually it's not. That's usually why it's cut. It's tough. This must have been real tough for you. But you see, your Gramps is a nice man.
すぐに助けてくれるだろうの。
He'll help you soon enough. No, the music is definitely worth it. But unfortunately, YouTube does not act kind to me recording music, you know? He'll help you soon enough. I don't know what voice I'm giving this man. Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the elder man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your Gramps to register as meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually, the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold.
目隠しはまずいっすよ。面が割れると後々まずいです。
Can't keep his eyes covered. If he splits his face open, it'd be bad.
ああ、そうかの。
なん
ら、せめて猿靴はくらい外したらんな。
And with that, we might as well take out the gag.
これぎゃ、息もできんね。
You can't breathe like that.
叫ばれたらまずいです。
It'll be trouble if he yells.
こいつのことは俺たちに任せてください。
Leave him to us.
たく、気の利かんやっちゃらな。本家にむごい仕打ちはせんにやっちゃっとる。
Jeez, you guys don't know how to treat somebody. The main family said no rough stuff.
そこんとこ、肝に刻むんよ。
Better remember that well.
分かってます。
Yeah.
手荒な真似はしませんよ。
We won't do anything stupid.
小僧がおとなしくしててくれる分にはね。
As long as the kid cooperates, that is. The man's hand prodded roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had been stroking his head before. Just stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee what will happen. That clenched threat was literally beaten into his head. Well, there we go. Well, there we go. Save a brand new slot, new slots. Look at this. Perfect. Okay. As I said at the top, there is now a small chance that I stream tomorrow night. But if I do, it will not be Higurashi, since I did that tonight. So there'll be that. Small chance. Bigger chance than before, but not that big of a chance. I might just end up just taking the whole day off tomorrow. Sunday, I probably would want to do quite a bit on stream. Higurashi then will return Tuesday night. I'll definitely be able to do Tuesday Higurashi again next week. And in fact, Saturday night Higurashi as well. We'll have a normal week of Higurashi. I'm committing to it now. Unless something drastic happens, I get sick or whatever. Normal week of Higurashi streams next week. So Tuesday and Saturday nights. And I think that's all I have to say and report. Let's see. Final words of the stream has been redeemed. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say before I go, though. Because those truly need to be the last of the last words. I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone has a great weekend coming up. If I don't see anyone tomorrow, have a great Saturday and Sunday. Like I said, if I'm not back tomorrow at all, I'll be back Sunday with stuff. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for watching, as always. No thanks needed, but appreciated. I try my best, despite you know, sometimes chat being rude, not understanding, you know, life situations. So maybe sometimes demanding more Higurashi when I have no more Higurashi to give. You know, I understand. I keep it in the back of my head. I understand. All right, the Street and Sun of Words redemption here. All right, it says next time on Higurashi, more Higurashi.